Hello and welcome to part 3. Now, this is actually stupidly late or early in the morning. I'm not sure which we'll call it. Mainly it's got this late and it's turned out like this because I am incredulous with a form of rage. And it all comes down to frigates because I thought it was obvious. And every book I've read through, every single one, seems to have missed it. So either there is something I'm missing, which hopefully I will have found by this evening. If I do continue doing this research, this would never have got to get done. And the hunt and the destroyers won't get done. Or they will get done, but they'll become their own bit, because this will become quite important. But I've pretty much spent the last 3.5 hours, which started off late enough in the evening as recording times go anyway, trying to track down why everyone treats frigates as a continuation of corvettes without looking at where their stats come from. Now, we're going to go through this, but first we're going to start off with some stuff about bilge pumps. Yeah, that seemed the most appropriate thing for today, for this particular one. What they want to put what on a frigate. Thank you again to Paul. And of course, we are looking for a place for that. But please do go listen to bilge pumps. I think you enjoyed them. The link is down the bottom to the first episode, but there is now 3 up, and there should be 2 more arriving this week. Wednesday morning and Friday morning. Snippets, Anti-Submarine Warfare 1942 to 3. Well, there's good and there's bad. There is, technology-wise, Hedgehog and Squid and a widespread use service. These are the things which were starting development in the 1930s. Okay? The Royal Navy noticed this problem with ASDIC. There is this wide-held belief that the Royal Navy believed ASDIC had cured all problems with submarines. They really didn't think that. But there's a limit you can do on the budgets you have available. So with the budgets they had available, they'd done what they could, and they'd have been developing and trying to fill the hole of ASDIC by developing the anti-submarine mortar, and it started work in the 1930s. In fact, in 1932, they're talking about testing and vigorous testing going on in various ranges. So, there's also the ley light, because current surface search radars from aircraft tend to lose vessels in the last mile or so. So you'd fix a light on them. It was too late for them to really do anything. It was enough coverage to enable you to really take them out as an aircraft. Oh, and the French make a very French contribution to the Battle of Atlantic. A lovely little company in Paris comes up with the AMX receiver, which allows submarines to detect when they've got radar looking at them. So helpful. Always so helpful. Anyway, the centimetric radar is also coming into service at this point, and that's really, really vicious as far as submarines are concerned. That basically will kill you. Intelligence-wise, there is the new Enigma, which is eventually cracked thanks to HMS Petard and Alan Turing. But the Germans do break the Admiralty Code, and it's not changed till 1943. The Admiralty are told several times it's broken. The Admiralty don't change it. There are many debates for why they might not change it, but I do find it interesting that it's broken after Torch, but before it's changed before certain other operations happen. It's almost as if the Admiralty decide, actually, it's better for the Germans not to realize we know they've broken our code, and we just want to change it as standard. I'm not sure what counterintelligence game was going on there, or if they were actually just being stupid. There are differing opinions in amongst the journalists, and as I said, can't get the National Archives to check. Myself, I would think it's probably a little bit of both. Now, I'm going to lean forward to read this one. Operation Packenschlag, which is a drumbeat. During January to August 1942, the Axis submarines sank at least 609 ships, that is roughly 3.1 million tons of shipping, for the loss of only 22 subs. Although relatively few in context of somewhat all campaigns, this equals almost a quarter of all Allied merchant ships sunk by subs during World War II. This was the second happy time. And it was thanks in many ways to the Americans' interesting abilities when it came to securing their coast, but also the needs to have convoys, escorts elsewhere in the world, i.e. Torch and all sorts of other things. A ship cannot be in two places at once, and the ship you have is what you're going to. The ships you have are what you have to do it with. Doesn't matter what you're building. Doesn't matter what you are projecting to have. It matters what you actually have. The trouble is, from March 1943, basically in a transition of almost 2 months, March 1943, which is happy hunting, turns to May 1943, where they are basically getting bushwhacked everywhere they go. Because technology and ships come online, and some of the key ones are the frigates. River Class. Okay, here is the very obvious point. The amount of convoluted thinking I have been reading, which is basically that the frigates were fast corvettes. They wanted a 2-screw fast corvette. This was a completely new design. Well, on the left is, closest to me is, of course, a Bittern Class, an Indian Navy Bittern Class. And next to that is Dart. You'll notice that they have very, very similar lines. You'll also notice that if you look up at the speed, you've got a top speed of 20 knots, which roughly fits with the Bitterns and the Black Swans. Okay, range is 7,200 at 12 knots or 15 knots, 7,500, 15 knots. Again, would fit with, if you consider the way the Black Swans have been developed from the Bitterns and the progression of technology, would fit with that general development. Both those ships have 2 screws. Similar crew sizes, radars, sonars, weapons fit, displacement, length, beam, draft. Okay. I haven't been able to read the documents in the National Archives, which my noted historians who I have been reading surely have. And honestly, I should have, rather than been reading them all evening, have given up and have just done this and got on with my book and finishing off the last few bits of reference checks. But it was infuriating me, and this is why this is going to be my next big project. Sloops, I think, and frigates. Probably I'm going to combine the two at this rate, because frigates get done and sloops get ignored. Leaving it to one side, you are basically looking at what an extended, to an extent civilianized for rapid production, sloop would look like, in my opinion. Fast corvette. Well, the Corvettes were already a civilianized, rapid production sloop. They're all developments of the sloops. And it just depends where you're at what point in the process you're taking these off. I would say these are a natural development of the modified Black Swans. I would say your flowers and your castles, egrets and bitterns. Just that much earlier. When the flow of time ripples, and there is one surviving, by the way, HMAS Diamantina. Thank you, Australia. You have saved Vampire and Diamantina, and I am absolutely really annoyed again with the British government, but we'll leave that to one side. Seriously, would it hurt them to preserve some of their small ships? We have, like, HQS Wellington, HMS President, which is Saxifrage, as being done, and then it just gets. Ay, caramba. Anyway, back to these. So, 30 were originally ordered, 151 were completed, of which you can only find ordering documents apparently for 140. So 11 ships were apparently built without being ordered. Hope their builders got paid. Well, technically 2 more cancelled, so 13 were. 5 were lost in World War II, which means if you were serving on a frigate, you had a very good chance of living through World War II. And only, as I said, only one is preserved in World War II condition. They had the whole point, theoretically, of the frigates was that they were supposed to be powerful enough that if the submarine was on the surface and using its surface guns as well as torpedoes, basically she could fight it off. Whereas the fear was that the corvettes couldn't. They've been giving it a jolly good go, but the fear was they couldn't. And the sloops couldn't be everywhere. There weren't enough of them, and there weren't enough destroyers to be everywhere, and frankly, the submarines were annoying. And you have things like ONS 5, which runs into 1943, a 7-day battle fought against about 30 U-boats. 30 U-boats. If a battleship had been involved in that, that would be a famous battle and we'd be remembering it. This is, again, my point. Small ships get campaign honours. Battleships get battle honours. If you gave a small ship honours as often as it gets into combat as you do a battleship, you would end up with them having a lot more honours than the battleships do. SC-130 and HX-239 are 2 more convoys. HX-239 is really, it has to be shared between the frigates, the sloops, corvettes, and the escort carrier involved. That is a massive massive battle. It's just Donetsk is throwing everything he can at them. And the mixture of radar, especially the centimetric radar, the aircraft, the increasing number of escorts, their viability, the sheer number of the throwing systems, the sudden explosion by the end of sort of halfway through 1943 in the number of squids, in the number of hedgehogs, in the number of these mortar systems available, and the sheer number of depth charges being carried by the task forces means that you have a lot more trouble if you are a German submarine. You're going to lose a lot more. You're running a far higher risk. And you have to remember that whilst you're now looking at the River class, which is, if we consider the Castle class, the Flower class, several sort of sloops, etc. We're talking almost 5th, 6th generation of wartime anti-submarine warfare escort, as far as the British are building, almost, let's say. Okay, if you're grouping them, okay, maybe you could call it the 3rd generation, but I'd say it's more like the 4th or 5th. You've got different iterations at different points where the designs have come out. Variation as whether they're going to be naval shipyard build or civilian merchant yard build, Britain or Canada or whatever. And the Germans are still using vast majority the Type 7C, which is the most common submarine they have available. Yes, they have a lot of them. Yes, they're a very powerful weapon. But the evolution is starting to be on the side of the surface ships, which are far easier, far quicker, and far more rapidly evolving in many respects than the submarines. And therefore, the submarines have got to start to evolve even quicker, and they're not managing to. Loch Class. They're cute. These attempt to try and produce a slightly lighter, slightly longer, slightly faster was the whole aim. Basically, everything was supposed to be slightly better, but only 28 of them are built. Mainly, they're carrying 2 Squid triple-barreled AS mortars, so they've got the sort of anti-submarine firepower that you'll be seeing on a Daring class destroyer post-World War II or a battle class destroyer. You know, this is the thing. Frigates, sloops, destroyers, they are becoming very potent anti-submarine warfare weapons, and it's thanks to their mortars. And then we have the Bay class, which has HMS Duddington Castle as the picture there. That is annoying. Excuse me a second while I pause this. Right then. So, welcome back. And I found the picture I did mean to have there. There you go. They're ASW, they're AA frigates more than anything. In which case, instead of having squids, they have a hedgehog. And they have slightly less in terms of depth charges, but they have far more surface to air sort of anti-AA guns. And they're cute. So in my view, frigates are slightly more conventional, easier to build, mass-produce versions from the sloop tree, which are slightly more specialized than the sloops because they can be far more easily adapted. Although frigates are quite heavily adapted as well. In fact, you really get to see that when I find my next book, which I've been looking for. I love these frigates, and I love these books. They are lovely books, and they are lovely ships. But seriously, the frigates and the sloops, they do look so like each other. Hunt class escort destroyers. They're coming. Down to the sloops. Frigates. Yeah, they are just so cute. Just realised there's no Bay class frigates in here. There are plenty of rivers though, and plenty of others. And they've got Captain class frigates, which I haven't, of course, mentioned, which are some more cute ones. But pretty much the more you look at them, there's a there. Loch and Bay class are often treated almost as one class, and that's why I missed them. They start off here with some Bay class, and then they have the Loch class. As you can see, they have some quite nice pictures and some quite nice colorings, and their different roles become visible in their sort of the way the camouflage has been applied to them. One's the anti-submarine arm, one's the AA arm, and they do look like it. They're good ships at this, and they're good ships for this. But in all their lines, you can tell they come from... Sorry, this is going to go around my head for ages now. Right then, some of the books I've been using, and you will see the one I've been pointing to most this evening is the one number 3rd from right on the top line. This one. But no, I've also been having a lot of fun with the frigate one. This one, River Class Frigates, which basically goes on and on and on about them being Corvettes. And you're sort of going, no, look at them, they're sloops. Have you just never heard of Corvettes sloops? I don't know. I'm going to find out. It's otherwise an excellent book. It is really good. But when you start looking into design stuff, sometimes the design chapters of books are more interesting. And for something which is going to be equally probably keeping me up at night to discuss, it's going to be the Back Pocket Cruisers, but that's going to be the one I'm going to be obsessing over getting right. Book's going to be in by then. Book will be in by then, well before then. And the pre-tribals. I'll also be wanting to get that right, because the thing is, there is a big transition point in the Royal Navy, pre-tribal, post-tribal, in terms of destroyers coming through. And it doesn't make one better than the other. It just shows the transition in thought on how your destroyers are going to be shaped, which is kind of cool. Again, please look down below for all the details of these. And Escort destroyers, which I'll be recording later today now. I have mostly got it done, but not sure. That might end up just talking about the Hunt class. It might talk about others. I've currently got it as the Hunt V and W classes. Hunt classes are the custom build one, but V and W Escort classes are really adapted for the role. They're the World War I generation destroyers that are increasingly adapted as World War II goes on into different types of escort. I think it'd be good to do them both. I will try and do my best to do them both and do them adequately justice. The trouble is, this one has absorbed me a bit because of my surprise. Sloops were so important in the interwar period, and yet they seem to disappear in some books. I do not know why. Anyway, thank you very much to people who are subscribing. Thank you very much to everyone watching. Please like, please subscribe, please go check out the Discord, Patreon, whatever you feel like. It's always very nice. The Patreon money goes towards my books. As you can see, I do depend on a lot of them, especially the more I'm staying at home. Thank you very much, and take care, and hope you join me later for the live, which I will have got some sleep beforehand of. Take care.